Hi friends, welcome back to another bedtime story. Today we are going to read a book called The Ant and the Grasshopper. Once upon a time, a little ant lived in a beautiful meadow. All summer long, the grass grew tall and the flowers were bright and colorful. The ant had made an underground home for her family in the meadow. She worked hard and was always busy. Nearby, there lived a grasshopper. He sang and danced all day long. There was plenty of food to eat, and life was good in the meadow. He hadn't a care in the world. But soon the cooler days of autumn arrived. The ant knew that it was time to prepare for the coming winter. So she spent many hours gathering seeds and carrying them back to her home. The grasshopper just sat in the sun. Sometimes he watched the busy little ant running backwards and forwards through the long grass. "Why do you bother to work so hard?" asked the grasshopper. "It is much more fun to sing and dance." And he jumped about in the grass, chirping happily to himself. The ant said to the grasshopper, "You are a very foolish creature if you do not know that winter will soon be here. When the snow comes, there will be no food to be found. Then you will starve." But the grasshopper took no notice of the wise little ant. "You are just wasting your time," he laughed. "We have more than enough to eat. And besides, why should I gather food that I might not need?" And he danced away through the meadow, singing his favorite song. All too soon, the days began to grow colder. It became much harder to find food. One morning, the ant and the grasshopper awoke to find the meadow covered in snow. The ant was able to shelter down in her home, but the grasshopper had to jump about on the frozen ground. In the days that followed, snow kept falling. A cold wind blew across the meadow. The ant and her family stayed safe and warm. Every day they ate some of the seeds that they had gathered during the autumn. Meanwhile, the grasshopper was finding that the meadow in winter was a very different place. Now he had to spend his days looking for something to eat. After a few weeks, he became very thin and miserable. He went to see the ant in her underground home. "I'm freezing out here in the meadow," he cried, "and I'm starving too. Please let me have some of your food." The ant looked out at the grasshopper. "I worked for many hours to gather this food in the autumn," she said, "and you took no notice when I told you that winter was on the way. Besides, there are only a few seeds left. I'm sorry, but I have just enough to feed my family." Then the ant said to the grasshopper, "However, you are lucky. Winter is almost over and spring is coming. Very soon there will be plenty of food in the meadow for all of us." The grasshopper crawled away, knowing how foolish he had been, and by the time the snow had disappeared, he was a much wiser creature indeed. Friends, hope you all enjoyed this story. We will come back with another bedtime story. Till then, good night and sweet dreams to you all.